Hello everyone, I'm your SI for this class, Maria Cunha. I will guide you through the process of lab number 1. Since it's the first one, I'll explain how to go through it and what are maybe some of the stuff that you may need to do to have a good grade on this lab. Now, starting with this, you want to open a new file and make a copy. So make sure you make a copy of the entire presentation, and once you are making a copy, make sure you change your first and last name. Make sure to delete the copy off once you do that. So let's check the slides first. Since this is your first lab, I want to talk a little bit about this. So you may need to answer a few questions. The first slide is talking about some stuff that you may need to work on SAS first. So I won't touch that just yet. Now, what I do want to touch on here is this type of questions. So this type of questions, they are not part of SAS. You have to research, you have to find them. And since it's extra credit, I won't tell you how to find them, but make sure to look for them. Well, actually, it says here, search, you see, and that will guide you through the answer. But make sure to look for it. Make sure to do your research. In future labs, you may not have this option. You may have to research it on your own. Moving on. So on the slides, as you can see, you'll see the SAS code and the picture. So what you want to do is have your SAS code or how this thing works. For example, insert a picture of a frequency table. So the code how to get a frequency table and a picture of the frequency table. Now, with that said, remember, you want to make it your own, as mentioned on the guide. So if you make it your own, that means you gotta style the presentation to your own style, make it yours, and then do your own research. So make sure that you have your own research done. Now, with that said, let's move on to SAS. Most of the questions that you have in the slides will come from SAS. So if we go here, when we start SAS, we'll just see this. You want to open this, open files, my share file links, open this document, and you want to go to Flint water sample. So you double click here and it will take you to this one. So you wanna click edit right here, and it will send you to program 1. In this case, I call it Flint Maria Cunha because it's my program. But you can change that once you save it. With that said, what we want to do first is come here. This is the first part of the code, and it's what you will see on your screen when you first enter this data. Now, if you check this, you'll have this bar which says what drug table word import, and then this bar which says what open table word input. And this is going to give you the data that you obtain from here. Like this is what it's calling the data in a way. Now, with that said, you can always change this. So this on yours should say word.import. You can change it to word.fling, or you can change it to anything. So with, for example, water supply, and I may repeat this on other labs because I want to make sure that you know. So water supply, you change it here, you change it here too, and you change it after this, you change it on your code. So make sure you always write this consistently, and make sure it's something that you can remember and it's short but you can remember. Now, after you change that, make sure to highlight everything and run it. Once you run it, you will get this. This is a table of content. It will tell you just basic information and some of the variables you have. So for example, word, zip code, PPV1, PPV2, PPV3. These are the variables you'll be working on, and some of the variables they will be asking you here on the slides. That's why the variables are asking which are categorical, for example. Now, let's go back to code. Once you do that, if you don't do that, it will probably, once you run the code lower on the, like right here, will probably give you an error if you don't do that first. It will give you an error which says import data doesn't exist, but make sure to do that first before proceeding. Now, once you have that done, on the lab they will ask you to do a frequency table, And not only a frequency table sorted by zip code, a frequency table sorted by word, and a frequency table with new data. Now, the new data, I'll leave it on your own. Actually, I'm gonna just cover it, but make sure to try it on your own. Make sure to make sure that it works. I'm not gonna run the code just because I want you to see. I want you to check it on your own. But I will tell you what it means. Now, we're running a frequency table based sorted by the zip code. What that means is this: we're using prop, which is our basic format for SAS. Then we call frequency table, and we say, okay, call a frequency table for the data word.plane, which, as you remember, is the data that we had originally here. Okay, now that we do that, we say, okay, do a table, but sorted by the zip code, and now run it. So if you run this, you should see a table that says information about this sort by the zip code, and that is some of the stuff that they ask you on the slides. Now, moving on, you want to repeat this by word. Now, if you see here, you have zip code here, and I just copy this same code, but instead of having zip code, now I want to have word. And what that will do, as you remember, is that we have a few variables here. One is word, one is zip code. So word is going to be one of the categories in which we can store information to, and it's one of the variables that we have from this data. And what it's saying is, okay, so do a frequency table, but in this case, I want it for word. So if you run it, you should see a table as explained already. But here comes the complicated part. All of this probably has been covered in the class, but just pay attention to this part just because it's the most complex part at the moment. We're gonna create a new data. What a new data means is we call data. Okay, I want a new data set. Can you please call it Flint2? And again, you can call this data whatever you want. You can call it water supply 2. For example, let's put it together, water supply 2. Or you can call it K, you can call it whatever, but just make sure it's something that is consistent. Please don't use a letter just to represent the whole variable because you want to remember it and you're going to be using it constantly. So we set the data to Flint2 and we say, okay, data from Flint2 is going to use information from word.flint. Now that we have the information from word.flint, we're going to set some limitations. What do you want to do with that? Well, if we have that, then we say, okay, I have word.flint. I want this to use the variable ppb1, which is one of the variables again that we have on our data set. And I want ppb1, which is part per billions, is the way we measure how much how much contamination is on water. Then we said this: if ppb is greater than 15, then this is unsafe. If it is less than 15, then it is safe. We don't specifically say less, but it's already understood by the code. So if you run this, and I'm actually going to run this part, you should see this. If you see this, you will see that if you scroll to the right, here you got a new box that says level, and you have safe and unsafe here. The way to check it too is if you have this thing here, level, you should be able to see it. Now, you want to create a new data set. You want to create a frequency table with this new data set. So if you notice here, we have this thing from the top. If you ever forget, just check on the previous code you have. So if you have prop frequency data word.flint and table equal work, okay, we want to do something similar but with the new data. Now our word.flint, which is our data, in this case we have a new data called Flint2. So we're gonna use Flint2 on this case because that's what we want. So we got a frequency table from the data Flint2, and we want this table to be limited by the level, which with the level being safe or unsafe, and that is how we're gonna obtain that data from the code. I think that would be it. You should be able to complete your lab with that information. Again, I won't run all the code because I want you guys to try it on your own first. If you have questions, please ask on during the SI sessions or during class. But yeah, this is how you run the code. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you on your SI sessions.